Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing fine. Welcome to another episode or another video on our channel, and in this one specifically we want to take a look at different exercises for handling weapons, or more specifically for handling jaw. So it's not necessarily about some specific defined movements, it's more the different exercises which help us to master the handling of the weapon, moving of the weapon, moving the weapon around from one hand to the other, and so on. So stay with us and we'll share a few examples of how we can practice.
Okay, so I'm going to show you a few different sort of ways that you can sort of practice with the jo. These are a little bit outside of our standard movements, outside of our standard like suburi movements. What's interesting with the jo is that it's quite versatile. You can grab it anywhere you want. You can use it in many different ways, either piercing with it or striking, in a striking way, like a sword almost. So what's interesting too is that right in the center is the balance point, and it's easier to turn in the center. So this is already one practice you can try, and just manipulating the jo right in the center with your fingers. If you get it right in the center, then this becomes easier, and it builds up a lot of strength and dexterity in the fingers. Okay, so you can try that as just a sort of finding the balance points and building up sort of dexterity. Now, in that same fashion, we can use the whole hand and just turning the jo as we turn our body. So it becomes easy to turn in the middle, and as I turn the body, I have these kind of wave-like actions. Some of you might have seen this type of movement before with either nunchucks or different things like that. So it's a very similar movement, okay? And you can try that with both hands. And what this does is this helps develop the wrist a bit of flexibility also with how we hold the jo. Okay, I mean, obviously you want to do that with both sides, developing the wrist. But you'll notice that I'm using the body to move the jo and not just moving the hand around the body. Okay? When I do that, then it's much easier to hit myself with the ends of the jo. So I use the body to turn when I do this type of movement. Okay? So I'm doing these wave-like movements there. Now to add to that, we can turn the jo and change hands. So when I turn the jo and change hands, I can come up from underneath. Okay? And for the beginning, you can just go back and forth. And I'll show you why we're going to go back and forth for the moment. So I turn and I come from underneath. Turn and I come from underneath. Okay? So now in a more dynamic exercise, I can add this movement that I just did, turning from side to side, and bring in the second hand, coming up from underneath, turning, coming up from underneath. And so this begins to build up a little momentum, and with the center of the jo and the center of the body, then you can actually create quite a dynamic movement in this way. Okay? So that's another way to manipulate the jo. Another simple exercise that you can use with the jo is going from side to side. And what I mean by that is, for example, if you start in ski kamae, some sort of ski position, ski kamae, then just sliding the jo into different places. So you slide the hand, slide the jo down, up, down, middle. And so the hands are sliding, and we change the ends of the jo. Okay? And so in this way, then, you can actually quickly change almost to any side. Okay? And you can even turn around in that way too. Okay? With different sort of movements like two-step. Okay? And this actually makes quite a dynamic change, but in a way it's very simple. Okay? Now let's look at a few other different movements. This next movement will be very similar to nunchucks again, if you ever use nunchucks. So I'm going to take more one end of the jo, sort of about a quarter of a length here, and I'm going to bring the jo behind the shoulder. So over the top and behind the shoulder. And with the other hand, I'll come across the front and underneath. Okay, so catching the jo, and I'm going to, again, swing the jo over the shoulder and behind. And again, the other hand comes in front and underneath to catch the jo. So this is almost like a striking movement coming from underneath, very much like nunchaku as we do this. This creates a bit of awareness in space. And again, there's a little bit more dexterity in the hands, the shoulders, the joints, things like that. Another variation of this would be to bring the jo not just over and behind the shoulder, but over and behind the back here. The other hand is going to come underneath here from the other side and catch the jo. So again, what this creates is a sense of spatial awareness behind you. So you develop the sense of the jo behind you. And I'm going to turn around so that you can see what this looks like. So in this sense, then, the jo will come out a little bit more to the side and comes back. The other hand is going to be there to catch the jo and come out. Right there. Okay. And then if you get a feeling for that, then you can combine the movements. Forward, forward, back, back. Okay, or any combination that you can think of. Okay. There are a lot of other movements that we could go over, but we'll keep it short for today. And we may do some other videos on how to manipulate the jo in different ways, especially coming from the center. So if you have any other suggestions, please feel free to put it in the comments below. And thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.